with Wendy Firmin, and I'm so excited, Wendy, to learn about your work, and everything that you do is really quite amazing. So can you start telling us a little bit about your background?
Hi everybody. Hi, Andres. Yes, so my name is Wendy Firmin-Price, and I have been involved with horses for over 50 years now, and I absolutely love working with horses to help people grow themselves as well. So about 50 years ago, I was given my very first pony, and I was only 12 years old, and he sort of started my journey, and he helped teach me a lot about relationships and life, and he was just always there for me. And eventually I went into running my own riding school and started teaching people to ride. And then I started specializing in helping people overcome their fear of riding, partly because I was sort of overcoming my own fears at the time. And I noticed that it was really pertinent that the fears I was experiencing with the horses and the riding was also very similar to the fears I was dealing with in my life, and I sort of just noticed there was quite a parallel. And the life path that I was on at the time made me go into some more spiritual ways of dealing with the person that I was struggling with. And I thought, oh, I wonder if that worked with my riding fears. And sure enough, starting to change my mindset and being able to visualize things differently really started making a difference. And then I thought, oh, I wonder if that'll help me get through my exams. And sure enough, learning to visualize, being on the horse and jumping over the jump all helped. And so that was like a really positive thing. And I thought, oh, I wonder if that will work for my riders as well. And so I started teaching people to overcome their fears, not just by, sitting up and, just doing things on a practical level with the horses, but to really look at their mindset and the fears that they were experiencing and how that might be affecting their life as well. And that led into something being called the holistic riding, which was a sort of the start of the equine assisted therapy work that I did. I then became a qualified metaphysician and qualified to supervisor and teacher level. So way before law of attraction and secret was sort of, in fashion, I was busily working on how to change my life through my mindset. And having already managed to help overcome my own fears of riding, I was using the spiritual principles to overcome my fear of a very violent alcoholic, and learning a very special law of reflection that works with the law of attraction. I discovered very much that what was being portrayed on the outside in my life was very much what was going on in the inside within me. And at first I couldn't take that. I remember one of the first books I read was You Can Create Your Reality. And I thought, well, that's a load of rubbish, because if anyone could create their own reality, who would create a reality like mine? I was 100 grand in debt. I had a violent alcoholic. Life was chaotic, and, and then the sort of next chapter is, well, people are your reflection. And I thought, well, no way, I'm nothing like this alcoholic. I don't lie, cheat, I'm not raging and whatever. But it was really quite fascinating, because as after I'd thrown away the book the first time, I did revisit it, and I thought, well, I wonder if that was true. And I was also being led to Course in Miracles. This is about 35 years ago. And I really started exploring the idea that this violent alcoholic, was actually a piece of me, a shadow part of myself. And learning that was so powerful. It was so powerful because here, instead of trying to change him, I just needed to learn how to change myself, how to look at the parts of me that I had cut off, that I'd not been with, that I had pretended that I didn't have a lying, cheating, um, you know, self that was angry. Of course, you know, most of us don't do that on the outside, do we? We're all sort of sweetness and light. And I was sort of definitely the sort of Miss Goody Two Shoes. But actually, he was an exact mirror of the rage that I had that was so suppressed in me from childhood. I mean, it was a clear out picturing. And, you know, the violence was also a way that I was being very violent to myself inwardly. It was constantly telling myself I wasn't good enough and how useless I was. And so by learning he was just this out picturing of me and my thoughts and my dissociated selves, I started working at integrating that part of me and learning to love and accept that part. Now, I didn't mean to say I condoned his behavior on the outside. I had to take practical steps to remove myself from the relationship.
So when you're saying he, you mean a part of yourself that you named
No. I was with a violent partner called Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin, and he was out picturing to me what the parts of me that I was not actually aware that I had.
Gotcha.
And so I had to practically deal with him in the human world whilst I was integrating the aspects he was showing me inwardly. Does that make better sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And consequently, I was able to then remove myself from the relationship. And by learning to love and accept who I was and all of me and start treating myself kinder, I was able to then meet a very loving man that I've been with for 28 years now, who is the complete opposite and loving me unconditionally. So it's quite controversial to talk about one way to deal with violent relationships like that, but it worked for me. And it's the basis of my teaching with the horses, because the horses help also to sort of act as a bit of a mirror and a metaphor when we're working with people's problems. And they help show people what's going on.
And so when you say it's controversial, what do you mean by that?
Well, there's not, if you think about most people going through domestic abuse, you can't sort of turn around and say, well, it's your thinking that's causing it, because that, you know, that doesn't sound very compassionate. But if people could see they're contributing to what is happening by what's going on inside, then people could get out of their situations a lot easier by learning to stop treating themselves so abusively, because it's, you know, everything and everyone is a mirror to what's going on within us.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
And so with the horses, people would come along initially with just the fears that they were going through, and initially it was just we were just focusing on the riding fears, but I was starting to notice that people would come along with, you know, relationship stuff, financials, health problems, all sorts of things, and they didn't even need to get on the horse before they started experiencing the amazing healing qualities of the horses that they were with. And so I really started developing programs called, you know, that's now called and I do something called Equine assisted therapeutic coaching, which helps people really get a handle on their lives. And the difference between working with the horses and ordinary coaching is that people are then able to actually have a practical experience to feel what it's like when they actually change their energy around, their thoughts around something. Because I'm sure, like me and Andres, that we sometimes be with a coach or a counsellor, and we can always sort of tell them what we think they want to hear, and we can sort of fool people most of the time. And the great thing about working with horses, you can't fool them. There's a great quote, you can fool people all of the time, but you can't fool horses. They feel the rider's hidden thoughts and reflect them in their demeanour. And
Wow,
so
that's
when
so
I'm conducting sessions, I know exactly what's going on with people, because the horses are either stopped or blocked, or they're reacting in some way. And I'm sort of like the translator of what's happening between the client and the horse. Probably giving you a few examples would be helpful. So there's one lady came along, and she was very, very angry. She didn't really want to be there. She was with a vulnerable adults group we were working with, and she could only speak by raging and being angry and just having a go at us all. And we just sort of quietly went there. Anyway, part of the exercise that you do when we work with the horses, you go out and choose a horse to work with. And as it was morning, the horses were in to be checked. And so they were all sort of visiting the horses in the stables. And every horse she went to backed up. And so she was used to humans doing this. But when the horses started doing it, she was really hurt that every horse just didn't want to come anywhere near her. And she
wow.
tried to sort of be a bit bravado and pretend she didn't want to do the exercise, but we could see that it had really touched her, had really hurt her. Anyway, she went round the corner of the stables, and she didn't know, but there was a horse right on the corner stable. And he was also, he'd come from a very abusive background himself, and so he was a very angry horse, and not exactly the quietest horse and easiest horse to work with on the yard.
Huh.
And she was standing next to his stable, and he felt her, because what happened, she started crying and actually going into her real emotions. And then he turned round with his head and then just touched her on the cheek.
Wow. Cool.
And in that moment, it was like a magic wand. She just shifted, changed. It was miraculous,
Wow.
and she became very animated. The two of these got on. So bear in mind, she'd not worked with horses before. This horse got her. This horse understood exactly where she was coming from, why she was angry. And they were working together like they'd been together for months, and they had this great relationship. It was really fascinating to watch.
That's amazing. You know, it makes me think of when people ask me about like things that they go through their lives. Like for you, the experience that you had with an abusive alcoholic person. There is many women out there that they're not going to listen to anybody, that they have the same problems. But when you come along, you said, hey, I've been there. This is my
Mm.
scars. You know, that's the wounds that I had. This is my scars. I survived it. There's your little cat. and
Yeah,
and uh, and that's amazing that the horses also have that ability that, hey, I've been through a lot. I get where you're coming from. That's
yeah.
so cool.
And it's not by accident. I had another lady came along, um, and she had a lot of stuff going on, and she again she that say people have to choose a horse, and every horse she chose um, was unavailable for some reason. So it was lame, or it was working, or it was belonged to someone else, and 5 times this happened in about 10 minutes, and she didn't get the clue. And so I just left it for a moment, just let her work with the horses. And then um, at the pertinent moment, when she was, bemoaning why, she couldn't get what she wanted, and I asked her, what was the unavailability pattern in her life? Why did she keep choosing everything and everyone that was actually unavailable? And at first she tried to deny it, but then as she sat and thought about it, she realized the people she was with, the business opportunities, everything, there was a piece of it that was unavailable. And again, it's one of those first things that show up when people come and meet the horses is whatever pattern, belief, or emotions leaking out of them, the horses will pick it up straight away.
Wow, that's so cool. And so often we look for places that where they're not available. Is it that they're not the right time for business, for whatever? Like they're just not available, and we try to make it about us. You know, I'm not
Yeah,
good enough. All of this or whatever,
yeah.
right?
And so another lady came in, and she was it. Um, well, actually, there was two ladies that day that came in, and they both went for horses that were again a bit feisty. Harry, one of them that was talked about earlier, and another couple of horses that had some dodgy backgrounds that were difficult to handle. And again, it was mirroring the type of men they kept going for. It was the pattern. They just kept going for the bad boys, and they chose the horses that were the cheeky horses. And so it just shows up straight away.
That's insane. And when you talked about the fears of horses, so when you had fear riding horses, how was that process for you? Because you said that you were with horses for a long time. So was the fear always there, or did it get worse because of something that happened, or how did that fear develop within you?
Yeah, really good question. So for years, yeah, I was really happy on my little pony, cantering around, and then I had to start taking my instructor's exams and riding exams. And over the years, I had many times when I'd gone jumping, I had fallen off over jumps, and so I had started losing my confidence quite a bit. And for my exam, had to go over 3'6", which gosh knows what that is in meters, but it is high.
Three
Um,
foot six? Yeah.
about 1.5 meters, I think. But I was actually terrified of getting over, sort of 1'6". And but the day I remember clocking when I was waiting to go over this jump, and the sick feeling in my stomach and the terror that I was experiencing, I suddenly clocked was the same fears that I was experiencing at home. And the problem with fears of riding, they start getting worse because, well, any fear, isn't it? We start always projecting the worst case scenario. I'm going to fall off. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and that's the same with all types of fear. And the riding, I would just always visualize myself coming off in the jumps. But when I clocked the parallel of the fear I was experiencing in that moment with the fear I was experiencing at home, um, that's when I realized that they were just one and the same fear. And then that's what I learnt to changing one to help the other. So as I got more confident riding, it gave me more confidence to deal with this person, this partner. Um, and as I got more confident to deal with him, it helped me with my riding. And I was using lots of affirmations, lots of visualizations, and lots of work from the Course in Miracles.
Hmm. That's so interesting. And do you think that whenever you're writing, the the self-talk can get in the way of your relationship? For instance, like the Navy SEALs, when they're trained to go into pretty hardcore zones, one of them was telling me that they'll tell mantras to themselves like slow is fast, fast is slow, slow is smooth, fast is slow is, but as the chaos is going around them, they're kind of managing what their brain is saying. That way, all
Yeah.
these fears and all these thoughts don't get in the way. Is it something? And can the horses kind of sense that too?
Absolutely. So there's another little saying of ours, what's in the brain goes down the rain.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
And yes, and horses, because they communicate non-verbally, it's um, believed that they sort of use pictures, sort of quite telepathically to convey messages to one another, as well as energy, as well as being able to read energy. And so when our own energy is up and worried, we've got a picture in our mind of the worst case scenario. Our body is sort of tense and tight, and without realizing it, everything that we're trying to ask, we're trying to calm ourselves down, but the body language we're using to the horse is we've got a picture of the horse bolting off, because that's what we're afraid of is going to happen. We've tensed up, so the horse thinks, all right, she's getting ready to go. And then we've gripped on. And so the horse, oh, you want me to go fast then? So the horse totally interprets our fear as wanting to go faster and whatever. Of course, we want the complete opposite. But again, we're giving mixed messages. And quite often this is what we do in our life, is we're giving life so many mixed messages. We want this, but actually we're afraid of it. We want the partner, but we're afraid of it. We want them, the big money, but we're actually afraid to have a lot of money. We want the success, but actually we're secretly afraid of it. So when we've got these sort of cross purposes going on all the time, it makes life difficult. But from a riding point of view, when you've got all these mixed messages going on in your head and your body, either the horse really reacts to it, or else they just shut down and think, oh, I don't know what this woman wants.
Wow, that's so cool. And have you found, so what sort of techniques do you help your clients? Do you help them through like mantras and self-talk or visualization, or how do you kind of run them through it?
From the riding point of view, one of the first things I'll grounding work, and we do this before I even let them go anywhere near the horse, that we get them, especially if they come sort of quite anxious, whether they're riding or whether we're dealing sort of with fears in their life. We will spend time just getting rooted into the ground. And I've got a lovely, the environment is sort of got quite a few trees and quite, sort of quite nature based. So it's quite conducive to just feeling and smelling nature around you, and just getting everybody grounded and out of their heads first. And then we just slowly build up that um, calmness and peace, so that then they're ready to get on the horse if they're riding, or to work with the horse. And it's not always just mantras, because again, it's no good just using a mantra if you don't mean it. So sometimes, again, when people are working with the horse on the ground, they'll say, oh, I love and accept myself, I love and accept myself. And the horse goes, no, you don't. Because it can feel, it's just words. And so, as we know from manifestation, we have to get into the vibration of that belief or that emotion in order to make manifestations happen properly. And the horse, because they're so tuned into energy, they're obviously, their whole life is dependent on it. They're prey animals. So they're tuned into the weather, they're tuned into sensing when there's a predator around. So we're easy to read, our energy field. And so when we're just going, yeah, I'm this, I'm that, they can feel it doesn't have the vibration with it. And so this is why working with the horses is so special and so magical, because once you truly get into the emotion of believing that you are lovable, or that your needs do count, then your energy shifts. And so the horse goes, all right, oh, you mean that now? Now, I'm probably anthropomorphizing a little bit, but it's a little bit like that, because when we're in true alignment, that's what the horse picks up, that energy field, to be able to go along. And then that helps people learn to feel the feel the belief, or feel the emotion, to be able to then take it forward. And then that way they're able to start thinking a little bit more positively, maybe if they are riding, being able to see themselves, being able to enjoy trotting or cantering, or if they're working on the ground, see the horse walking with them in unison. So using visualization first, energy and vibration next, and then intention third.
So visualization, energy and vibration, and then intention. And so
Yeah.
visualization, imagination of putting themselves past the jump, or in a relaxed. Do you do it after they've jumped it? Like, do you have them imagine like going through it, or like after in a safe place?
Yes, so again, we sort it in their mind first. So we take them through, we do what I call the fast forward movie. So usually what I do first is go through the worst case scenario. So we do the what if, what if that, and then what if that happens? So what if that happens? And by keeping at it for long enough, most people realize that even in their worst case scenario, they will be able to cope with whatever it is their biggest fear is. And that's what most people just need to know, that they're going to be able to cope. Because usually our fear says, oh, you're not going to be able to cope because you're going to, you're going to be paralyzed, or you're going to be hurt, or you're going to be left, or you're going to be abandoned, or whatever. And we only usually play the movie to that part, rather than playing it further and really saying, well, what if that happened then? Well, so what then? So what then? So what then? And even if people go, "Oh, I will die," well, okay, well, imagine you're up on the clouds with your harp and halo. Now what?
Exactly. I completely agree with you. And in Bhutan, they have this practice, which is a death meditation. And it's the happiest country on earth. And they do it as a part of their culture. 5 minutes
Wow.
is engraved into them since they were kids, to imagine themselves decaying and dying. And then that gives you a new perception of life. It gives you a new appreciation of like every minute that we're alive. And okay, so if I die doing this, the chances are slow or low. But if I don't, then I'm gonna feel really good, and my life is gonna feel like achieved, and I love what I'm doing, and so it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in the hospital too, I see that a lot when people, when you take them through it. Okay, like what if you die? And
Yeah.
then it's like, there is some sort of relief, even just accepting that can be the fact what happens.
Absolutely. And that's what sometimes people just need to realize, and actually face what they're really afraid of. And then, having played the worst case scenario, we then put in a new video and say, right, okay, well, what's the best case scenario? Okay, well, I'll go, cantering on, and I'll enjoy it, and I'll feel really happy, and say, okay, well, then what? And so then they can see, oh, right. So I said, well, it's the same part of your brain that's thinking worst case scenario is best case scenario. So you have a choice, which movie you're going to put in. And so it's just teaching them to, I call them videolizations. So that
Visualizations. I like
so they put the right video in, and then that helps them, whatever it is, whether, as I say, whether they're riding or whether they're dealing with something in their life. We put the movie in that they do want. And again, this is really powerful when they're working with the horses, because quite often, coming back to the riding side, people like myself, when you're coming up to a jump, oh, they're not going to go over the jump, not going to go over the jump. And so we've got a picture of the horse not going over the jump. So the horse goes up to the jump. Oh, you don't want me to go over the jump then? Because we've got all our energy is saying, don't go over the jump, because that's what we're picturing. Whereas if we can sort of see ourselves the other side of the problem, see ourselves the other side of the jump, then that will actually help the horse know that actually you do want to get to the other side.
Wow, that's so cool. And then the vibration part of it, how do you do? I mean, is that just kind of like going in and really feeling like what that would feel like, and just really, really, truly meaning it?
Yes. So before we can sometimes get there, we usually have to go to the more sort of, I don't like calling them negative emotions, but just for the sake of argument, um, the more troublesome emotions, and get people to just to feel that fear, feel the anger, feel the frustration, feel the grief, feel whatever it is that's going on. Because again, coming back to, it's all very well trying to put in positive affirmations of I'm this, I'm that, but if actually you're still feeling angry, if you're still feeling sad and hurt, what you're really feeling, the vibration that you're really at, is actually what's going to affect the manifestations, because you can't fool energy. And so by getting people to really feel their emotions, first, all of them, and then again, I will help people sort of talk to their emotions. I believe our emotions, even the so-called negative ones, are there for a reason. They are our barometer of telling us that something's good, or it's off center. Anger is just another of those barometers, and grief is just telling us that we're feeling sad about something. And for some reason, we seem to grow up with quite a fear of expressing our emotions and really feeling them. So in order to raise the vibration that we're in, we have to go to what's the real feeling we've got going on. And so by, again, just working with the horses, because they will help bring up the emotion that's really going on for them. And then again, I often use tapping to help that, because I find that's sort of quite a quick way to dislodge anything that's got a bit stuck in them.
Yeah.
And then as we're visualizing the new future, and then getting into the emotion of that, then really feeling that in every cell of their body, really feeling themselves in their new life, seeing themselves performing duties through the day, a new relationship, or having got the money, whatever it is they're sort of wanting to work on. And when they get into that new vibration, and that's often when the horse really picks up, especially when we're working on the ground with them, they pick up that new energetic flow that we're now releasing. And of course, when we're in the flow, that's when we can manifest more things that we want.
And then the intention part is aligning it with a meaning that is like, how do you look at that? How do you look at the intention and how to align that intention?
Okay, so I'll give the two examples. So if we're riding on a horse, well, actually, let's think of it like, let's go for a bicycle. Let's take it sort of inanimate for a moment. So if you get on a bicycle, you can look where you want to go and you can visualize where you want to go. But unless you have the intention to actually get there, then it's not going to make your legs work. You can look at everything, look at exactly where you want to go, but your bicycle isn't going to get there. You've got to have the intention and then the action. So the intention is, I want to get there, but then I think I missed that out earlier, you then have to follow through with the action. And so that to go. And the same with the horses, whether you're going over the jump, you've got the intention, and then the action is putting them towards the jump. If we're working with the horses to work with something representing a challenge that someone's going through, they've got to have the intention to get to the other side. And then usually when they're negotiating that particular obstacle with the horse, they'll probably be invited to think, well, what is my next logical step? What's the action I need to take in my life to then help that manifestation come about? Because quite often we get quite lazy. We think, oh, I want my £1 million, but I don't actually do anything about it. We don't want to, want lots of new clients, but actually we haven't got our phone number anywhere, or we want the new partner, but we don't go out dating or anywhere. So we have to. There's the four levels. We have to spiritually align. We have to get our mindset our emotion and vibration, and then the action in the physical. So the 4 levels are important for anything that we want to manifest.
I see, and you can tell, and the horses can kind of pick up where these people are in each one of the steps, and then yeah, and then maybe what is the word? Contribute to that, become a team member in a way. It's kind of interesting, right? Like when you're building a business and you put out an intention, and then when you're really pressing on, that's when the people that you need start showing up. So
Absolutely.
is the horse kind of okay? You're ready to do this. I'll help you. Is this
Yeah,
sort of relationship?
yeah, absolutely. And the horses can help show us where maybe we need to be clearer with that intention. So again, we can have the intention, but if we're not got the clarity with it, and this is where sort of everything needs to link together. So we think, right, okay, I intend to have a new business. But if we're not clear what we need to do or what that business is going to be, then the horse that you're working with will probably just stand there. I had that with a gentleman recently, and he was um, quite stuck. You know, he sort of knew what he wanted to do, but he was not. He was sort of quite confused with what he needed to do next, and had quite a lot of issues going on. And the horse he was working with was just sort of like, well, if you don't know what you want, I don't know what you want either. So he just stood there, and um, so I invited him to sort of get really clear what exactly did he want, what did he want his life to look like, and then once he got really clear with that intention, then the horse was able to walk along with him and just show him that clarity. But sometimes, we're so busy in our heads that we're not making room for clarity to come through. And quite often when the horse refuses to move forward, it's almost enforcing us to stop, just let go of our thoughts for a moment, and really, um, I don't mean really think, but just sort of just allow inspiration to come through. And then that way, when you've stopped that busyness for a moment, you've got the opportunity to get some different clarity, some inspiration, or maybe act on some intuitive ideas.
Huh. And it's almost like if we're not clear, it's like going to a travel agency and trying to get on a plane, and the plane doesn't know where it's going. Like,
Yeah,
how does the plane are going to? But the plane keeps telling you, no, go ahead and book with me, but I don't know where is the destination. Unless you're
yeah,
looking for an adventure, that's what you're looking for. But most of the times, nobody's gonna come into your team until you have absolute clarity, like this is where I'm going. And so it's like we're not reliable up until then. Like what you said, like the horse is like, okay, if you don't know where you're going, what am I gonna
I'm
do
going
next?
that way. I know where I'm going to back to the field.
How do you notice that? I mean, the example that you gave of that lady was wonderful. That somehow she felt that connection in condition of somebody who got her, that
Yeah.
okay, you've been through a lot, I got it. And so that's pretty cool. Have you had any other experiences where people were dealing with anxiety or depression or a chronic condition, and this helped them see a new possibility
Oh,
for their
yes. I mean,
life?
that's probably the biggest number of um, my clientele to come with those issues, feeling depressed because they're um, more because they're frustrated and feeling they shouldn't be frustrated. They shouldn't be. A lot of the people I work with, they're quite successful, and they've got quite a few sort of trappings of success, but there's something else going on within that they're just not quite resonating with. And so they're anxious for the future. they're quite worried about, certain, examples I've got are either sort of the empty nest syndrome, or a lot of ladies in that sort of midlife stuff, sort of not quite sure where they are in their relationship, whether they want to stay or whether they want to go. And just all that sort of what I call stuff. And so just having time to come out in nature and just give themselves time is one of the biggest assets they give themselves, because again, my sessions are a little bit longer than ordinary coaching, because I want people just to have time to connect, to source, whatever that means to them, nature, time to just think through something, feel, and then sort of be able to act upon those new ideas, and see that their anxieties are usually just like little children trying to get their attention, because they're probably operating still from a lot of childhood programming. It's like we've got like the equivalent of Windows 8 still running, or perhaps even earlier, on our sort of our desktop computer. And we've got all these apps and programs open, and so it's slowing us down, because we've still got these programs running that are so outdated. And so my job is to help close all those old programmings down and change them and upgrade them. So, where maybe they thought they weren't good enough, or they'd have to be perfect, or what's another common one, that something was their fault. It's a really big common issue that people come midlife with, is that something in childhood they kept believing was their fault, that maybe parents split up or something had happened. And logically, as an adult, they realize it's not, but if that child part within them is still thinking or carrying that, they're going to that part's going to sabotage even the most successful person. They'll be going along quite happily, and boom, exactly. That part goes, I want healing, I want time, exactly. I want to be heard. And so my job is to help find those little parts that need a voice, and especially when most of us have something from childhood that is unresolved. So we just go back in time, resolve it, so that we can move forward.
And the science shows the childhood adverse experiences. There was a study done by a Dr. Felitti at Kaiser Permanente in Southern California, and he did a humongous study with a lot of people, and he was able to statistically show if somebody has one adverse childhood experiences, if they have two, if they have three, if they have four, then he related all those numbers to COPD, depression, suicide, and they go up and up and up the more that people have these diseases. So yeah, it's a big opportunity to be able to help somebody move forward. And what is next for you, Wendy? What's next for you in your journey?
Oh, well, oh gosh. So I'm thoroughly enjoying my therapeutic coaching. And what I love doing is taking people on my self-mastery course. It's a 12-module course that takes them through all these beliefs and emotions, fears, and all childhood programming, and takes them through right through to sort of life purpose stuff. And we do it with the horses. So, whilst people may be experienced in, law of attraction and the affirmations, when they work with the horses to learn this stuff or really upgrade, it takes their whole life to a whole new level, and really upgrades it, because it brings that theory alive, and it's not just words. And so the self-mastery course really really transforms people's lives. And you don't have to have anything sort of, you know, dramatic going on, but some people sort of want to improve their financial situation, change their career, have a better relationship, either with themselves or with another. And they're all the sort of things that we can help with and get people finding their truth,
Mhm, mhm.
speaking their truth, living their truth.
Yeah, that's so true. Every level has a devil, and so
Like that.
anything can help us get, okay, what got me here won't get me there, and so all these different tools are wonderful. So, Wendy, thank you so much for being on we did a whole hour almost. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Already, gosh.
Yeah, it's amazing how great conversation. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your story.
Okay, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's been most enjoyable. Thank you.
All right, Wendy, I'm gonna put pause.